on it?
I was. I'm not looking at it right now. Hang on. Let me go back to it. Doesn't look like anyone.
3 waiting.
3 waiting. Oh, that's probably me. You.
I'm not looking at it right now. I need to mute it. There we go.
Oh, that was me. Not me, you.
Is anybody there? It always defaults to top chat instead of live chat. I don't know if anyone's there or if it's just me and you twice. So we might be winning our own prizes.
Woohoo! Wait.
We'll just swap prizes. Oh, I've not showed my video yet. I shall do that in a second. So welcome to Live News, everybody. Just me and Random at the moment. Scott is keeping things in orbit as normal. Sparklepuss will join us in about 10-15 minutes, something like that. So we will blither blather until he gets here and we start doing some news. We'll do the normal stuff. Before that, what have you been up to, Random, since we last spoke?
Mate, it's been a while, isn't it? A couple of months now.
Oh yes, you missed the last one.
So we had obviously Tetris Effect came out. So I've spent quite a fair bit of time playing that, which has been very interesting because I always had a skill ceiling at about speed level 9 on Tetris, where that would just get overwhelming and be a bit too much. But with Tetris Effect, with the single player journey mode, it kind of keeps giving you like these little segments of speed, like ramps up and then ramps back down, rather than being a linear progression. So you can end up at times with quite a low stack in the well, and then it suddenly hits you with like, right, now you've got to play at speed 14 for a bit until you've done like 8, whatever the threshold is, sort of 8 lines or whatever it'll be, for it to then switch back to the another speed, which it sort of might then go a bit slower again, and it sort of has this kind of ebb and flowing mechanic that goes on with the musical evolution. And so through that, I actually sort of very quickly forced my brain to get much better at coping with the sort of the higher speeds on it. So I became sort of rapidly quite, this skill ceiling I'd been at for like 20 years of Tetris. Suddenly, like, I broke through it. I've not gone stupidly far beyond it yet, but it's definitely helped. Just the way the game setup's definitely helped me generally as a Tetris player, so that's good. It's been fun to sort of sit around and relax in VR, and all the sort of extra little modes. I think generally they're all pretty fun additions. So yeah, it's been good fun.
So you're playing it in VR?
You are?
Are you playing it in VR?
It depends. Like, sometimes I have been, sometimes I haven't. It depends sort of what mood I'm in. Sort of certainly, if I just want to sort of chill out, I'll have ended up playing a lot in VR and just sort of relaxing and letting all the visuals sort of sweat and the music sort of go over me. But then I did also find that sometimes just the actual general game is a lot easier to play sometimes in VR. And I don't know whether that's anything to do with the fact that you've got like higher refresh rates, so maybe it feels a bit more responsive and you've cut out any sort of display lag along the sort of the chain through to the TV, or if it's just a sort of a more, it focuses you more. One thing I have found is that it's a bit more of a pain in the ass to see what's coming up next in the queue, because you can zoom out the camera, zoom it in and out to sort of to suit how you like it and put it at angles and things. But like the normal non-VR mode, it's very easy to see the whole well and to see the queue coming up. And then in VR, you tend to have to, on the sort of, at least on the default zoom, you have to actually move your head a little bit to actually be able to see, into that top right corner where the next piece is. So it's a you're not quite just sort of picking it up in your peripheral vision as you're going through it. You've actually got to sort of keep sort of checking at it, a bit like sort of driving when you're sort of supposed to be constantly looking in your wing mirrors and your rear view mirror and back on the road and stuff. So you do get used to it, and it doesn't impact you too much. But yeah, when things get fast and hectic, it's obviously that makes it a little bit harder from that respect. Uh, and then yeah, the other thing I picked up VR wise was in the Christmas sale. I picked up Astro Bot Rescue Mission, which everyone, sort of the popular quote from reviewers and things early on was like, remember the first time you played Mario 64? It's like that all over again. It's not a particularly difficult game. There's a couple of collecting like there's 8 little bots hidden in each level, and a chameleon to find. Generally, the chameleons have been all right to find. There's a couple of levels where I can't quite figure out where some of the bots are. But it's not sort of there's this kind of challenging-ish platforms later on. It's starting to throw quite a few things at you with sort of like cannonballs and fire, like jets shooting up and all sorts of things, as well as your normal platform sort of shenanigans. But it's just the sort of the clever things it does with perspective, and having to actually look all the way around you, which I guess you could do with just a fully movable camera on the right stick. But there's something about being there and being in the actual physical sort of world almost that it's feels very very nice to play. It's very good fun, so that's been quite good.
I've got nothing to play it on, so I've watched videos of it. I watched Willie's live stream quite early on when it came out, but I've been thinking about toying with the idea of VR so I can play Project Cars.
That's a bit more expensive if you're going down the Project Cars route.
So that's what's been stopping me.
And then the other thing I did was I picked up the RetroTink 2X, which came out a couple of months ago or something. And this is a little scan converter that accepts S-video, composite video, and component video inputs. So whereas the open source scan converter only works from an RGB signal, or a decent composite component signal, sorry. This works, so it works off standard S-video and composite video, and gives you a really nice either 240p progressive scan output, or it will line double up to 480p. And it gives it through on an HDMI output, so you then get a really nicely converted, like what would be a fairly shit video signal through a flat screen TV these days, because they're all sort of tuned just for old DVD players and whatnot. This actually gives you a really good image, which is sent to your TV. And it doesn't do any scaling, so if your TV doesn't scale 480p up to 1080p very well, that's an issue. And it has sort of full compatibility with being able to plug it through the open source scan converter as well if you want, and then pass it through there and add another set of line doubling and scale it up again. But yeah, fortunately my big plasma that I use in my gaming room, I bought it because it did a decent job of upscaling stuff. So yeah, that's been nice, and I've just been sort of to test it. Like a lot of my consoles ended up getting RGB modded, or modding them myself. A lot of the time, just because then it was better on a TV, on a CRT anyway. But then also that's worked well with the open source scan converter. But things like the PAL N64, you can't really do it without sort of this expensive HDMI mods now and things like that. But this was like a sort of an all singing, all dancing sort of more practical way to at least do my N64, plus a couple of other things knocking about. So I've sort of dug that back out, and I've been fucking about with that here and there, and realizing quite how many very cheap driving games I've bought over the last 5 years, when I just kept seeing them for like 99p and buying them. But then I started playing sort of not really very seriously perhaps, but I thought I'd give Ocarina of Time another go and see if maybe it will actually stick for once, and I'll get through to the end of it.
Have you never finished it?
No, every time I've tried, I've got so far through it and then just sort of fell off it. and never finished it.
I did the same for years, but I did it on the 3DS. That was the easiest one for me.
Did think about maybe picking up the 3DS, especially once
Not
I
the
found
3DS,
out.
sorry. Was it the 3? Yeah, the 3DS. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd got this, and even with getting a fairly decent signal out of an N64, it still graphically looks a bit fucking shite on a big TV. It's all right if I play it through the CRT, and that looks very nice still. But sort of if I want to just sort of sit back and relax and chuck it on a bigger screen, it does look like arse. So I was like, oh, that's all right. I've got it. I've got the GameCube disc that has Ocarina of Time on it, so I'll just play that. And play that, like, that'll look, because it up-resed it as well as in the emulation, didn't just do it at standard resolution, so that looks all right. If I vaguely remember before, there's just some weird sort of control mapping things from going from an N64 to a GameCube controller, but it turns out I sold that disc at some point when I needed money, obviously thinking, well, I've got the N64 version, which is not got the bugs in it that the emulated version has, but not really thinking that at one point, I'd probably maybe want to look at it without it just being all fuzzy and mushy. But yeah, I think I'll stick with it. I think over Christmas while I'm chilling out, see if I can get through it finally.
I did enjoy it when I finally stuck with it and got through. It is a good game.
I'm finding the text speed. Never used to have a problem with it before, but the speed of the text boxes seems incredibly slow now, which don't know. I think whether I'm finally hitting a threshold where I'm actually sort of getting impatient and and annoyed with stuff like that from older game design, which I always thought that I was quite tolerant of it, but it's definitely noticeable on this.
You're losing your patience.
Yeah.
What have I been up to? Mainly the book, finishing off the book. It's pretty much done. It's going through some spell checking and some legal stuff as we speak. So I finished that maybe last week or the week before. So now I'm finding myself with a bit more free time, but I have got another project on the go, which you will hear about at some point. What else have I been doing? We can do a little show and tell. I've been doing this. There's my brand new MacBook Air that's currently being set up. So they're not cheap, are they?
No. Well, you'd think they would be now that they're pretty much when was the last time they did a MacBook Air refresh?
It's just this year.
About 5 years ago, wasn't it? Oh, is it? They've done another new one?
Yeah, they've done one this year, but they've taken, slightly annoying, they've taken the SD card slot out the side, and it's not USB anymore. All you've got in there is 2 USB-C slots, so you get a charger to fit, and you either need to rebuy everything that's USB or just use a USB adapter. So people sell like kits for 30 quid on Amazon, something like that, which has got an HDMI port, VGA port, SD slot, USB slot, and all that built into it. So I might pick one of them up. But what I did get, where is it? So when I got my OnePlus 3T, I bought, which camera are we on? We're on that one. Tiny little USB-C to USB 3 adapter. About the size of a small pen drive. It may be on camera in a second. So I was hoping that would work in there. And lo and behold, it does. And I paid about 3 quid for it. So I did a time machine backup on my old MacBook Air and did a restore on this through this little hokey adapter, and it all worked fine at USB 3 speed. So I use that for most things. I might pick up an adapter for video out if I ever need it, but not that I do very often. I have got a USB sound card because it only has a headphone socket on there, no microphone, and I sometimes use that. So I've got a USB sound card for it downstairs, which I shall try once we're done with this. So yeah, pick that up. What else have I been doing? Gaming wise, I picked up my Pandora for the first time in ages. Literally all my free time lately has been spent on research, on interviews and writing. So I picked that up and fired up the Amiga emulator on there, played a bit of Super Frog, and I played a couple of platformers on the C64, one of which was Booty, which I never finished. I'm going to finish Booty. Quite a primitive-looking game these days. Single screen at a time, although it is a multi-screen game. You have to go around various platforms, and each door on there is colour-coded, and there's lots of keys hidden which are colour-coded, so you've got to find the right key at the right time to open the right door. And there are lots of doors built into kind of the background, so you go out through a door to another screen and all that good stuff. So I'm going to finish Booty. What else can we do to waste time till Sparklepuss tells us what he's been...
I was just going to say, in terms of, speaking of emulation handhelds, I've been sort of picking about with the my GPD-XD again. Last couple of months, partly started off. I started seeing how well Zelda ran on that as well, but then also I'd been watching a video of Valkyria Chronicles 4 and decided that hang on, I've never played the third one yet. Let's see what the state of the ROM translation is, because it never came out in the West, and that seemed all right. So I was like, well, I'll see if that runs in SPP, whatever it is, the Android emulator for PSP on there, and it runs really fucking well. So that's been ideal for spending 18 hours sat on the floor of a hospital and things like that.
Yeah.
Been going through that, but then I always keep thinking that PSP should be retro, but then it's not, is it? Because it was around the same sort of time as the PS3.
It just
yeah,
predate it. Only just though, I think. I can tell you, I've got a chart here. Oh no, it stops
in
at
thinking about that, I sort of then thought, well, yeah, I suppose any system that I worked on when I started working on games. So we're talking the I did like one PS2 port of a game, but that was just because it was pretty much the same version of the Wii version. You just stuck it out, and it was a popular Sonic franchise, so why not just still stick it on the PS2? It's still sort of viable, but definitely wasn't really, it was quite old at this point. But yeah, we're talking sort of PS3, 360, Wii, and PSP and DS when I started. DS Lite was out, and DSi was on its way. And then, sort of went through obviously transition through to sort of Vita, PS4, Xbox One, and the Wii U. But so I suppose anything that I worked on platform-wise definitely probably isn't retro yet.
No,
wasn't that long ago.
You won't have heard it yet. I'm hoping the show might be out later tonight, depending how this goes and how well the edit goes. Everything else is ready. So once we do this, I'll do an edit on it and hopefully release it. Then I'm done for Christmas. But we discussed during the top 10, there's an interesting question came up. No spoilers. But we decided for the 10th anniversary show, we'd do a group discussion on what we should include in the top 10s. We should include some newer stuff than we have of late. And it's how we do that cutoff, where the cutoff is. And the question that came up, I suppose I can spoil it for you, is how do we do that for pinball? Because there was a pinball discussed which was not retro, yet it just felt that it should be included. So we need to think about all of that. So get some notes down.
Yeah, I suppose we give, like, arcade cabs as well, we'd probably give more of a pass to than home stuff. Well, maybe. Well, yeah, I bet there's some modern Terminators that Scott's thrown in, and no one sort of thinks twice about it because it's just like, well, it's it's.
Well, yeah, we've included. We've talked about his Family Guy in top 10s, definitely. And when was that? That was only, what was it, 2008?
Yeah, there's definitely been modern pinballs in there.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll do that discussion for February, our 10th anniversary show. What else was I going to say? Did I make a note then? I thought I made a note. No, I didn't. Where did I write that then? Not in my notes. So anyway, what we haven't done on live news for a long time is give away prizes. So we're going to start giving away prizes over the next few months. Now, last month we did, if you recall, Willy Claus, where Willy was giving away some little arcade consoles, little arcade cabs, and we got some entrants for it, but neither Random or I can remember the questions or the prize. So we're going to postpone it a month, so all entries will be valid. There is a winner, but I don't know what you've won and if your answer's correct. So we will give that out next month, and there will be prizes for this month. And what you need to do is wait a moment, because Scott is about to come online, apparently. I think he's at work, so he may just come in for a second. So let's do that, and then I shall return to what I was talking about. Where's Skype hidden it this month? You've hidden it there. Let's see how this goes. We should have a Scott Schreiber with us quite soon. In fact, we could probably ask him about the prizes.
What's going on, guys?
There he is. You're just in time, actually, because neither Random or I can remember the Willy Claus question or prize.
Oh, okay. So for the Galaga, it was what is the hidden game and how do you access it?
Okay.
And for Wreck-It Ralph, you're going to have to review the audio and check it out.
Okay. I don't think we got
you
an
got to have
entrance
two
for
of three things of like who went and picked, who was the company that was guarding it, who went and subverted their guardians.
That's right.
Guardianship.
I don't think we got an entrance for that, but we did get one for the Pac-Man cab. Do you happen to know the answer, Scott?
I don't have it with me. I don't remember off the top of my head. I have both the mini at home and then the real one, and I don't recall. I just got a few minutes to chat, because I'm stuck here doing the work thing. But I was thinking this is probably the first live news I've missed since we started the show, isn't it?
It probably is. I know I've missed one, and I was looking at the top 10 database the other day as well. Sparklepus is trying to ring me. I'll add him in a sec. You have done one more top 10 than I have, and that will be the live one that you did at EGC.
Could have been, yeah.
Yeah. So.
But it's funny though. I think out of for a 10-year history, that we have one absence apiece is not a bad deal.
No, and when you think about it, that was the premise on which the show was started, with 3 equal hosts with an equal share, and if one person had life get in the way, then the other 2 would get a show out, and it's amazing.
We almost never have to invoke it.
No, it's amazing that we've done so well over the years. It really is.
I would have liked to make an even 10, but it just wasn't in the cards with everything that's going on. Hey, I was, I'm picking up, what I can when I can today, but I was listening to the discussion, recapping what we're going to discuss, and I want to throw something out there while we're in this live news, so that our listeners can kick it around and give their opinions. I think it was Random made a great point when he said arcade machines could be a bit tricky as well. I think we've got a great delineation on arcade machines. With pinball, there is the solid state versus electromechanical division, right? Although there's tons of solid states in the vintage area. So, I've got some ideas on that, but it's a little too complex to just start diving into now. I'll save it for the discussion. But what I want to throw out there for maybe you guys to kick around a bit and listeners to weigh in on to give us some thought about it is – there was an era where CRTs left arcade games because they went out of production, and LCDs came in to the remaining arcade games. There's no arcade games in production with CRTs. Now, this wasn't that long ago, maybe just about 10 years ago. 10 to 15 years ago, we started seeing the LCDs emerge. But I'm thinking for arcade machines, a pretty darn sharp line of delineation for what is retro and what is not. Is it a CRT or is it an LCD? Because anything from that point on is LCD, and everything prior to that was CRT. So that would include the 90s games and cut off around 2000.
Yeah, good point. I never considered
anything
arcade.
That's like not VGA, interlaced 480 or 240p video
Well,
output.
see, because that's kind of funny because you can go back to some of the Naomi games, which certainly do have VGA capability. So that's kind of tricky, but they came with CRTs, so they definitely fit in the vintage area.
So would you say the Wii qualifies then?
We would not say that. We would say it's quite a modern system, but we
no, it's just a GameCube.
Yeah, it's just a GameCube.
Well, because I mean, it wasn't designed with HD TVs because they weren't really mass market at that time.
Save up your argument, and we'll do it. We'll do it. But we do want to give, as Scott says, good idea to get some feedback from the listeners on what they think. You know, do you want to hear us talking about the newer gen consoles? Not too new, obviously. It's called Retro Gaming Roundup, but we can certainly do that. Another thing I was going to throw out there for listeners, our 10th anniversary show is coming up in February. If you send us a little audio clip wishing us happy 10 years, we can do a little montage of those thrown in, maybe, if as long as the quality doesn't suck like SoCal's used to. Send us a little short clip of you, you know, congratulating us, wishing we'd go away, and all points in between, and we'll throw them in the February show.
Yeah, what's your favorite memory?
Some bonus points for chameleon memes.
Yeah.
Well, boys, I got to bounce. I just want to come on for a few minutes and throw that out there, and I will continue to catch what I can as you guys go through the news. And it sucks I couldn't make the full 10 years without an absence, but it happens.
Well, technically, you've not been absent now.
well, you know what? Sitting in the studio, fully participating. I think just a cheeseball 10-minute call into the show does not truly constitute making the show. Okay,
we'll count it as a miss. All right, dude.
That's what Scott said during the news he missed.
Yeah.
We could do, just thinking, for the books, we could do a sort of a raffle-y sort of situation where we assign numbers to the books we've got to give away, and then people who send in audio clips, we then throw them into another random generator and pick them out and go, right, this person who's contributed, you get this book as a thank you. You get, next person gets this book as a thank you.
Yeah, and we might be even able to incorporate that into the Kickstarter.
We're talking about different books.
Different books, but
I thought you were talking about the other.
No, Random's got some books to give away as prizes.
Okay, right on. So I am going to bounce then, and I will catch you guys in the very, very, very near future.
All right, later, dude.
Later, boys.
So Random mentioned prizes there, and I was talking about them just before Scott came in. So, yes, we've not given a prize alarm and a phrase that pays recently. So Random has got a full set of the Chris Wilkins books to give away. The three...
Well, not quite full.
Not quite full, but the 3 Spectrum ones. Run through what you've got there, Random.
So we've got Let's Go Dizzy, the story of the Oliver twins. I'm going to try and do some show and tell at the same time, which is...
It's not going to be in sync, but never mind.
We have got the 3 History of the Sinclair ZX Spectrum in Pixels books, which are pretty full of good colour clash and graphical niceties. A still sealed Commodore Amiga in Pixels book, and we've got the story of US Gold, which is that, and we've got, goes with that, Ocean, the history, which was that was the first one, I think, wasn't it?
Ocean was the first, yeah.
Yeah. And then the Commodore C64 in Pixels, all in marvellous condition.
Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to give one away this month as a little teaser. Maybe another one next month, or maybe the set of 3 Spectrum books. And then, yes, if you submit audio clips, we can throw you into the raffle, and you can maybe win one of them that way. So the prize alarm will sound quite a lot like this. So whenever you hear that sound during this broadcast, you will need to type in the Ustream live chat window a phrase that pays. Random, pick us a phrase that pays.
Oh, Christ! I should have thought about this in advance.
Well, that can be it then. Christ, I should have thought about this.
Or to follow on with a Simon Butler and Chris Wilkins and show-related thing, we could have Beelzebub has a devil for a sideboard.
Say that again.
No one knows how to spell that.
All right.
It's unspellable.
I'm looking for... Go on, pick us a phrase that pays. I'm looking for the answer that Per sent in, see if he's right. I don't think he is.
Here's one I should have made earlier. Perhaps.
I'm not seeing that he's right. I need to maybe check this. Here is the secret joystick sequence. Oh, he might be. Yes, he is. He's right. So, the winner of the Willy Claus competition then for last month for the little Pac-Man Gallagher thing, the question was, what's the code you need to enter with the joystick for the secret game on the Ms. Pac-Man / Gallagher cab? And he was right. You press up, 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 down, 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 left, right, left. So Per Holmstrom has won himself that. Per, if you drop me an email with your address, and I will let Willie know, and he'll wing it all the way over to you at some point in the next 4 years. So look forward to that bad boy. So what was the phrase that pays? Did we decide?
I threw out, here's one I should have made earlier.
Okay, that'll do. Here's one I should have made earlier. We won't pull you up for apostrophes and all that and capitals. Here's one I should have made earlier is the phrase that pays, and you type that in the chat window when you hear the prize alarm. Which brings us round to Sparkle and his late arrival and what he's been up to this month.
Ooh, I have been bottle hunting, so... Gosh, I haven't drank alcohol since probably I think 2014.
CGE.
Was the last. Yeah, around shortly after that. That was probably the last time I drank. But I've been collecting bottles ever since. I'm gonna build a bourbon bunker in my basement eventually. When I get this, enough money kind of hobbled together for it. But I've been collecting bottles ever since. And I've been on the hunt for a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle for several years and finally won one in a lottery. So pretty happy about that. I think my entire collection's up to 123 bottles right now.
Woo!
All sort of limited edition bourbons and stuff like that. Buddy of mine is taking a job with the game studio over in the UK. So now I have another reason to get over there. So I'll probably try to get over this summer. I don't think whenever he was being interviewed that he told them the reason he left his last job is because he told his intern if he fucks up again, he's going to salt and skin him. And the intern reported him to Human Resources, and he was asked to just put in his resignation. So just a little employment tip to everybody out there. If you're, working somewhere, can't abuse the interns too much. But yeah, looking forward to trying to get over to the UK at some point this summer. Just been playing some classic games on the Super NES Classic with my kids a little bit. We're gonna open up. I got them for Christmas, the Smash, so we'll be playing that here in a few days. And I'm just looking forward to the new year and everything that comes along with that.
So is there a temperature you're supposed to store bourbon at or not?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly don't want to expose it to heat or extreme cold. So kind of, room temperature or slightly cool, my basement's always usually around 59 to 65 degrees, so it's a good spot for it right now.
So what's your most valuable bottle? The one you just picked up?
Probably the Pappy Van Winkle. Highly sought after. A lot of my stuff's limited edition, so I have like the Rhetoric 24, the Rhetoric 25, some special editions from like Jefferson's Reserve. I got like some 25-year-old rums and tequilas. So some of that stuff, it's like once it's gone, it's gone. You can't ever get it again. It's not, like they continue to make it. So yeah, at some point, we'll have a hell of a party down here.
Yeah. And if your mate does come over here, tell him to bring a bottle of Old Grandad and ship it to me.
The price of Old Grandad has been steadily increasing. So I guess people are catching on to your
yeah, my exquisite taste.
It's kind of fucking weird down here. Like I have, I don't know, maybe 6 bottles of Blanton's. I think
what's that?
Case of Buffalo Trace. Like, so some of these things, it's just like they put it out on allocation. So I call around all the liquor stores like in the mornings right when they open, and I'm like, hey, do you have a bottle of this? Do you have a bottle of that? And I feel like it, they create this false market demand because they just they only allow you to buy 1 bottle at a time, and then you have people like me that hoard it for a collection. So I don't know, I've really gotten into the thrill of collecting, because obviously I'm not drinking it. If I was drinking it, I probably wouldn't be able to amass over 100 bottles at any point.
You'd have a collection of empty bottles.
What's that?
You'd have a collection of empty bottles.
Yeah, and I think I told myself this year I'm going to start getting into some Irish whiskeys and some scotches. I got a couple bottles of Johnny Blue.
That's good stuff. I like that.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's not hard to find. It's it's just a little pricey. So how if anybody has some good recommendations on something that's worthy of a sort of a nice collection, send that into the show.
Lafrague is always good. We usually have at least a glass of that at Expo. That's not overly expensive, but it is more expensive than a normal one. It's quite peaty. You can taste the earth in it, but it's really good stuff.
I have some kind of Grand Reserve 10-year-old Lafrague, some kind of special edition. I do have 1 bottle of that in my collection.
That's good stuff. So maybe we should bring this around to retro games and things like that then at some point. So Retro Hamer in chat says quite common in America, I believe. Talking about Lafrague, no doubt. So we had one sent in by a couple of people, and I'm guessing you two will know more about it than me. But it is Console Wars is becoming a new TV series. I'm not aware of Console Wars. I've heard of it, but don't know too much about it. Either of you better informed than I am on it?
Can't say I am. It's snuck up on me.
So it's the battle between Sega and Nintendo, apparently. The battle that defined a generation. Oh, it's a novel written by Blake Harris.
I've heard some commentary on the book. I've not actually sort of read it myself, but I don't think... I think there's a bit of embellishment that's happened in it, with regards to some of the history,
right?
Some of the things that were said and went on. But I think out to be a factual sort of representation of what everyone said in the Console Wars, I don't know.
Well, it says it's a novel. It's not a factual non-fiction book. It's a novel, so artistic license.
Something like that would be well suited for like a Netflix type show. They do that Toys That Made Us series. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's kind of what immediately comes to mind. It would be, because I think so much of the fun of it is kind of seeing some of the commercials and things from the time period. So I don't know if I'll be sitting down to read the book, but if they do.
So if it's a novelization, then perhaps the adaptation for screen is going to be more along the lines of Micromen,
Well, it
something like
says
that.
here there was a documentary being worked on, but now there's going to be the TV show, and no one's confirmed if they've kind of morphed into one, and they've not specified if it'll be a drama or a documentary yet. So there's not too much information out there, but it'll be coming to a screen near you at some point. That was sent in by Peter Gibbs and our old Greek friend Petros Malekos. A couple of months on the bounce from Petros. Keep up the good work.
I'm not a.
What?
So I'm just catching up, getting back to the news. We've got distracted from when I set it up earlier. Let's see what we got. Let's just say, yeah.
We've got a presentation and crowdfunding campaign called The Legacy of 3D FX. It's a Kickstarter, I do believe. There will be a link in the show notes, and if I can remember and be bothered, I'll put it in chat as well. And it's is it a book? Yes, it is. The book's divided into 3 parts. So part 1 will cover the history of 3D graphics from the 70s to the creation of 3D FX. Part 2 will explore the developed graphics as well as those left on the design table. And part 3 will be an interview biography with Oscar Barina, an authority on 3D FX and one of the biggest collectors worldwide, and possibly some others too. So it is on Kickstarter. The goal is set at €16,000 to publish the book in English and Spanish. And it says it will be available in 3 editions. Various dust covers and things, or lack of, depending how you back it, I guess. So you can read all about 3DFX. I don't think that's a book that I'll be rushing out to buy, but there will be no doubt a lot of people that will. So let's hope it gets funded. We need some more retro-themed books on the market. Speaking of which, there'll be a handful of GIFs coming up in the live news video there. You'll be able to see all Coleco Chameleon themed. And of course, you can visit the site of the book and read the blog. We've got at least 2 or 3 posts coming out every week on the blog at colecochameleon.org. I thank you.
Well, I got one here. This is an article that was on Racket Boy. Nick is the author of Racket Boy. I can't really pronounce his last name. It's unpronounceable, but Nick's a good dude. And Racket Boy is a cool site for some retro gaming news. And they just put out an article on the rarest and most valuable Nintendo Wii games. So if the Wii, I'm going to make this logic. If the Wii is on Racket Boy, and Racket Boy is a retro site, therefore the Wii is retro. So, and if not, the retro police love to beat me up. So I'll be the offender and read this one. So some of the valuable North American releases for the Nintendo Wii include Dokapon Kingdom, which is about 190 sealed. American Mensa Academy. Never played that one. 2-for-1 power packs goes up to 140. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, which is it was a solid first-party game that was pretty early on. So I'm kind of surprised to see this on the list. Looks like that goes up to 160 sealed. Got Cyberbike Cycling Sports, not including the bike. Metroid Prime Trilogy, the Steelbook Limited Edition. And I saw these on the shelves, and I kind of always wanted to pick them up, and then they kind of disappeared quickly. You're looking at $100 sealed on that one. That's great for the system because you get all 3 of the Metroid Prime games. This is one I actually have. This is the Data East Arcade Classics. I had pre-ordered that, and it just didn't do very well. So I don't think stores really stocked it, but it had Burger Time, Magical Drop, Heavy Barrel, Caveman Ninja. I bought it because it had the arcade version of Bad Dudes on it and wanted to play that with my kids. And, I never ended up opening it, and I have a sealed copy of it. So maybe at some point I will put that thing up on eBay because I don't think I'm ever going to get around to playing it. But I got Last Story here, limited edition, $70. They did Dragon's Lair trilogy. That's $85. Guilty Gear.
And that wasn't a great version, I don't believe. I think there was some
What's
issue. I don't think it was a great version of Dragon's Lair either, that, if I remember rightly. There's that many versions, it's hard to recall, but I think it got slated.
Yeah, I think it got panned.
Yeah.
I don't remember it doing very well.
Mm.
And then also Guilty Gear XX Accent Core Plus, looking like $56. You know what? And I'm kind of surprised Mad Dog McCree isn't on here. I know it's kind of a shitty version of it, but it's hard to find. I've
got the PAL version.
You do for the Wii?
Yeah, and it's shit.
Is it? It's shit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but
Yeah.
I wanted to play it with my kids because I never see one out on location anywhere, and it's just such a hammy kind of fun, real-time action game. But I thought it would be, the implementation would be great with the Wiimote. Why is it shit?
There's what is it? I think you've got to be balls on accurate with your timing. I think it's a bit strict on that. But once you get into a death scene, I think if you die, you've got to go back to the menu to get back to the beginning and start the game, and they just really messed up that whole process. So it's like, it takes you too long to get back into a game again. It's years since I've played it, so I don't remember everything that annoyed me about it, but that was probably the biggest annoyance. Once you died, it just takes you too long to get going again.
Kind of like the arcade.
Pretty much, or the ridiculous DVD versions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so anyway, if you guys are digging in the bins and happen to see some of these games, pick them up, maybe flip them, make a little extra money.
Well, because my Wii is such a modern console, it's still hooked up to my TV, so if you do make it over, we can play some Mad Dog McCree on the Wii.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
I've got one. I've got one now, which is from Adam, Rich, and Fuzz, who seem to be the members of Shoes On Now, a band that seems to do a lot of video game stuff. And they are emailing us to say that on the 24th of December, they're releasing a chiptune punk/indie concept album that explores, i.e. pokes fun at the inner emotional lives of early 90s video game characters. The album's called Backwards Compatible and will be available in all the online music places you'd expect. Think Green Day plus Grandaddy plus Game Boy. Additional promotion, they are publishing a new retro game themed music video every day in December as a sort of musical advent calendar on their YouTube channel. So the videos are a combination of classic game footage and custom animations they've put together. So if you let's see what their YouTube channel is called, if it's called the same.
I've put a link in chat to one of the videos. That I did watch that one. That was a pretty funky ass tune.
The channel does seem to be it is just Shoes On Now as their channel. So go and check that out. Listen to their thing, and then head over to their website to find out more about the music. And from the sounds of it, they'll probably find, after the Christmas Eve, find the actual album knocking about on digital places. I assume Bandcamp, maybe some streaming sites, is what that means. So,
yeah. One here from Us Versus Them, and it is Bethesda banning Fallout 76 players for life, for actual life, after shocking in-game homophobic attack. So it relates to an incident in which a group of Fallout 76 players targeted and harassed another group of players over the live chat, and they got themselves banned for life. I doubt they're too upset because the game has been universally slated, but that kind of ties into one that Peter Gibbs sent in a bit later, so I will paste the link in there for the Bethesda one. Then I'll pull this one up, and these things tend to come around every so often. It's titled, Idiot Kids Will Try Anything to Get Out of an Xbox Live Ban. And these things, you know, you see them do the rounds every so often. The messages that people have sent to places like Microsoft when they've been banned or had the account suspended, and they're trying to plead ignorance and say, I didn't do anything wrong, and then Microsoft posts back the evidence that they actually have. So some of these are pretty funny. Some of them are quite rude as well. One guy here complaining about his suspension, and they replied to him, "You put campers can go suck a dick in your bio."
They can.
Yeah. So, always a good, fun read when you've got a few minutes spare. The link, as I say, will be in the show notes, and is also right there in chat for you. I won't spoil them all. You can read them yourself. I don't work here.
Well, I have one from Carl Klitsky, who was probably trying to assassinate Scott with a stroke somewhere, because he sent in an article from readretro.com.
I noticed that.
He writes, I know, an odd place to hear anything about video games these days, but that's not the point. It looks like King's Quest, Police Quest creator Al Lowe was trying to sell some original source code, and Activision, dirty bastards, forced them to take the auction down. Here's the kicker. The code for the Activision game, for the game, was something that Activision doesn't really own. I understand the need to protect one's intellectual property, but this is crazy to me. Anyway, thanks, guys. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Scott, I'll be paying for your medical bills, Carl. So, yeah, I mean, I saw this when it came up, and it was kind of strange because it's like you get the source code, but you can't actually make anything. And then the article here is by Carl Williams, who does, I think, all of the writing at Read Retro at this point. Carl writes some pretty decent articles, and he kind of goes into it here talking about, you know, Activision's the bad guy. They need, you know, but they have to protect their IPs and such. So, I mean, I was kind of confused. What did you guys think of this? Like, what were you actually buying here? You know, is this just Al is trying to help out the community? Maybe Al needs some money. Like, it just seemed like a strange thing to kind of sell.
It did, because apparently this is the only surviving copy of it. I read an article about it when he first put them online. You know, he was saying that he backed all this stuff up because nobody else ever did. You know, the company didn't have any backups of it, so he took it. So I'm guessing in some kind of way it's maybe not even his to sell anyway, whether Activision are involved or not. You know, he was working for a company, so the company owns it. The fact that that company might not be around anymore and didn't back it up is neither here nor there. It's not necessarily his to sell, so I guess somebody at some point was going to stop him.
Yeah, I mean, if he was just releasing it into the public domain, it'd probably be all right. But yeah, as soon as you try and start making any money off something that is dubiously your ownership, then yeah, that's when you're going to get into a bit of spot of bother, I think.
Yeah.
A spot of bother.
Spot of bother.
He should probably just donate it to a museum or something like that. I don't know.
Video Game History Foundation or something, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that'd be cool. And then, you know, hopefully Activision could appreciate something like that and not be dickheads. But yeah, it seemed dubious. Like, how can you really sell that? Do you guys know what the auction got up to?
I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody in chat can tell us. I got one here from Spinal. A C64 Mini keyboard mod. Hi guys, here is a mod I was thinking of doing myself, but couldn't build up the nerve to cut up my C64 Mini case to do so. A user on the unofficial C64 Mini forum has created a working keyboard with an Arduino by cutting up and using the Mini keyboard. I won't be trying this until I can get a replacement keyboard just in case it goes horribly wrong. Now this is a video, I shall paste it in chat. And he literally does. He takes his C64 Mini apart and cuts up each individual key and has to build, the whole mechanism underneath it. So it's not the easiest of mods. I imagine it's very time-consuming, and the propensity for it to go wrong, I imagine, is quite high, and you've butchered a C64 Mini when it does. So...
Well, yeah, I was looking at it, and there's a lot of effort that's gone into, because every key you've got to buy a little micro switch for every key, and then you've got to make a 3D print a 2-piece board to basically mount them in, to then mount them into the case for the C64 Mini, and at the end of the day, you then end up with a keyboard that's going to be very small and not the most ergonomic to use, surely. Yeah, don't know how useful it is in the long run as a mod.
Yeah, the tiny keys anyway. I mean, how long are you going to sit and type on that thing for? Stick a USB one in there. Okay, so was it last month we asked for feedback about the furore caused by Mr. Butler and Mr. Cummings?
I was just reading through that one, yeah.
Yeah, so we only got a few pieces of feedback across, Facebook message. Can't remember if there was a couple in Discord, but they range from he's a legend and what have you, to this, which is the opposite end of the spectrum. So for journalistic integrity, I shall read it out. And as I say, they go all the way from he's a legend. No one says he's the best part of the show because he's not, we are. But here we go. I'll leave it anonymous just in case. Hi lads, just listening to the latest show where you asked for feedback, re Simon Butler. I'm a long-term fan of your podcast and have been wanting to say something for a while but haven't until you invited listener response in this episode. Sorry, but I don't like Simon's segment and never have. I used to love every minute of your podcast and was sad when I first heard Simon's segment and later episodes when it dawned on me that this was now permanent. His segments are always angry and nasty. They put me off listening. Why has the podcast become a platform for Simon to slag off people he has a beef with? Others will have different views, but I personally don't put on podcasts to hear a 1-hour moan segment or a one-sided slagging off from him or anyone. It totally makes me sad. I've kept listening to the show because I was a listener from the very early days and didn't want to give up being a fan/listener. Currently, I skip his segment when I can, but he's now in more parts of the show, and it's not always possible for me to skip. He has an advert towards the end of the show. He's not in more parts of it, but I guess, as you said, Mike, there are news publications that make you mad, and there are news that don't. Therefore, I should not listen to it if that's the case. I've stayed so far because, as I said, I was a listener before he came along and hoped he'd chill out or go away. I have 100% no relation with Simon or the latest person who he took issue with. I've got nothing personal against you, Simon, if you read this, and I'm sorry if this upsets you or anyone, but was invited to give my opinions, so there it is. I haven't seen anyone complaining on the forum, so I guess it's just my issue. Thanks for the years of fun and all the best to you all in the future. I'm going to grab my hat and leave now. I've said my piece. Yes, you are entitled to your opinion, and that's absolutely fine, as is Simon. And like I said last month, we invited Adrian on to come and give the other side, but he chose not to. And, that invitation is extended to anyone. I wouldn't say he's 100% negative all the time. He does talk up a lot of people, a lot of designers, a lot of artists, and a lot of games. So it is his platform to air his opinion. And if his opinion is good or bad, you're going to hear it, I'm afraid. So, yes, we got good and we got bad, and probably an equal amount of each, I think. What do you reckon, Random?
I don't know. I've not really seen much at all.
Was there some in Discord? I can't remember now. It's been a month.
Yeah, it's hard. I know AD has weighed in, but AD's weighed in many a time.
Yeah.
And I think wants him to be his granddad or something. But yeah, I can't say. I mean, I've not really been paying any attention to Facebook for about 3 months now.
Yeah.
So I've not really seen much knocking around there.
Elfham's just piped in chat. The first 2 segments Simon did were a bit slow and made me think of Marvin the Android. Since then, he is on fire. He delivers opinions and his personal view on things, so it is good. That's our prize winner, Per, of course. What was I going to say? I was going to say something then.
I skip a segment.
And the podcast app I use allows you to do that with all our segments. I put the timestamps in, and Podcast Addict turns them into a link. So if you go into the show on the player, just click on the link and it jumps straight to that segment in the audio, which is pretty neat.
It's good for skipping the top
sometimes 10. Some of the stuff, I mean, obviously I think you probably have a different opinion on Simon's segment where you're listening from. Sometimes I enjoy the segment because he talks about something that's relevant to me as, part of the American audience. I think it's, obviously going to ring more true with people over there, and you're going to have more of an opinion one way or the other about what he's saying. But just some of the stuff that, he's been involved with, I think just, the American audience probably doesn't really have much an opinion on. So if he's slamming somebody, it's not going to really ring with you as much.
Yeah. I've also forgotten what I was going to say again.
Like I would guess a lot of us just don't give a fuck about the Oliver twins. So it's kind of funny to hear him rant and rave about how they suck, But if you're from over there and you have some sort of affinity for the egg games and all the other stuff they did, I could see where that would turn you off, and you'd be like, "What the fuck? You're trashing, my childhood hero. I hate you." So there you go.
There you go.
There's the American opinion.
Yeah, or part of it at least. Unless you speak for the nation, I don't know.
Just all the neighborhoods that Nintendo ruins.
Which is all of them then. One here from, I nearly said Rob Hubbard, but it isn't. It's about Rob Hubbard. It's from Spinal again. Hey, it seems that Rob Hubbard has been making Sid music again. Sounds all right. Spinal. I will place the link in chat for you there. Of course, it will be in the show notes. That didn't come out right, did it? I pasted the wrong one there. You can see.
Can we play a little ditty?
Funky HTML code. Yes, we probably can. Let's do that here.
Let's get Simon on and judge it.
There you go, the wonderful sounds of the Sid chip. Pretty.
You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like, how wrestlers have an entrance song that they play?
Yeah.
Or fighters.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna play that in the bedroom tonight, right before we start making nasty. I'm gonna that's gonna be my entrance music.
You ready, babe?
With the dressing gown on.
Yeah, and then just whenever it starts doing that womp womp, whip it out, and there you go.
Couple of windmills.
Yeah.
That's what I heard at least.
Rob Hubbard's lovemaking album.
Knob Hubbard.
Knob Hubbard. One here from Jeffrey Lee, who says, "Hi, this may be of interest to your readers." Well, let's see what it is, because I can't remember.
It is as another retro gaming book.
Oh yeah, it's the Cubert one.
Cubert and Wii by Jeff Lee and colleagues with Trickman Terry Minnick. An inside look at the history of the Gottlieb Milestar video arcade games over 30 years in the making. This book is an in-depth chronicle of the Gottlieb games such as Cuba, Mad Planet, and Mach 3, and many more, and of the crew which created them. 50 pages of illustrations from the secret archives of Jeff Lee, Gottlieb's original pixelator, an advanced reader's edition for mature readers only. Oh, looks to be $35 dues with free shipping in the US. I don't know what that would translate for getting it over the pond. Although we can obviously use Schreiber
Mail.
Courier.
Yeah. And soon Sparkle Plus Mail. I've got a collection of shit for Scott sat behind me. Some Butler artwork and 3 issues of Fusion magazine. Have you seen Fusion magazine, Random?
I've not, no.
I shall take one to an expo if you've not seen it before. You'll find my writing in there. And, of course, the aforementioned Simon Butler, who actually is very different in writing. Pick up Fusion Retro... it's fusionretromag.com. Go along there, pick up a few issues. It's a great little A5 size magazine, pamphlet, booklet, bookazine, whatever you want to call it. About 50 pages on the first one, a few more in the later ones. 3 issues out so far, and it's going to be a bi-monthly. So pick it up. It's good stuff. And you can read what I have to say.
I got one here from Mike James, but I was also going to send this one in, so I'll just pretend it was from me. Atari acquires stake in Anamako Brands as part of blockchain game deal. So this was kind of all over the place, I think, earlier in the week. Might have been last week, but, Atari is moving and shaking again. So it looks like they've acquired a stake in this company, and they are doing some stuff with blockchain. So it hits home with me. So just to give a little update, I think it was a year ago, December 16th, that I jumped into the game on blockchain and bought myself a Bitcoin. And I'm going to pull up my phone real quick. I think I bought it somewhere around $16,000 or $17,000 because it just kept going up and up and up. And I was like, yeah. And I gave some updates on the show over the course of the first few months. And now it looks like the Bitcoin is worth $3,825. So I've taken quite a bath on my foray into Bitcoin. I get Bloomberg, which is a sort of like investment news weekly magazine here. They just had a big story on Bitcoin last week where it was like Bitcoin rhymes with shitcoin, and basically talking about how the whole blockchain thing is collapsed, and all these different initial coin offering companies like have been investigated, and all the scams behind shit, and it's just not a good time to kind of get in. They had some counter articles with these big hedge fund managers that have, lost entire fortunes in Bitcoin, and some of them that still believe in the blockchain. The cost of mining it right now is more expensive than just buying it because it's the prices dropped so dramatically. So, something seems a little fishy. It looks like this Anamako Brands company does have some games. I'm not really familiar with any of them. Looks like they do some Astro Boy games, Garfield games, Mattel games, and then Crazy Defense Heroes, which I'm not, again, like Ben 10. I know that's a cartoon. Norm of the North, Crazy Kings. I have not played any of their games. It looks like Atari made a $250,000 investment into the company, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of money, to be honest. They're going to do some strategic partnerships, and they're going to try to pave the way to incorporate Bitcoin and blockchain technology into the Roller Coaster Tycoon franchise in the future. So, all right, let's discuss. What do you guys think?
I know Atari have made some money this last year. I was reading somewhere this week, and all the money they've made pretty much is from the Roller Coaster Tycoon IP.
Is that because they integrated blockchain technology by it secretly mines bitcoins for them as everyone plays it?
Probably. There was a software program, I forget what it was called now, but that was secretly mining on your machine if you installed it without telling you. But that got pulled. But investing in blockchain, it's not something I ever did. I just don't have the confidence that these things will remain independent. I think, there's no way the Illuminati will let you continue to run a currency that's not centrally controlled. I just don't think it will happen in the long term. So I don't think it's a great long-term investment personally, but I may be wrong. Atari getting in on it, well, they need to make money somehow, and if they've no games and no consoles, how else are they going to do it but, investments, I guess, or licensing old things.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see them get back to some of the roots of the original Atari with some of those original IPs. I mean, I think they could be done in an interesting way, and, not just a sort of cheap mobile game. I don't know.
Yeah, Glenn Minette sent one in just after this one where they have put 150 games out for the Switch. Digital download at this stage, but there might be a physical copy soon. So it may be that they start to trickle those out, but they need some way to fund it, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, it seems like they're on the move. Things are happening, and it's not just completely smoke and mirrors at this point. So good on this French fella that I can't pronounce his name either, Frederic Chenice or something. Maybe he's not even French. The CEO of Atari, but it's. I mean, the guy's
in France, aren't they?
Trying
so
to
he
do
likely
something.
is.
What's that?
I said they're based in France, aren't they? So he likely is French.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's on the move. I think in the last couple of years they've probably done more than some of the previous stewards of the company brand have done. So, get some of those Alone in the Darks out again. Let's get some cool remakes of some of your old IP. Let's get this thing going because it's such a great brand. I want more than just Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah, I don't even want that. I want Frankenstein's Monster in HD.
What is it?
Frankenstein's Monster we talked about last month. Oh, was it this month? No, it was this month. They will have heard it by now, unless they're in live news, in which case
did that win?
No spoilers, because the people in live haven't heard it yet. It did very well, though. Stay tuned for the podcast to drop. People say drop these days. Things drop now. They don't get released. They drop. I'm down with the kids. I know all the lingo.
Dropping babies.
Babies get dropped.
Are you going to be, if you're that down with the kids, are you going to be uploading videos of you flossing later?
I've tried flossing. It didn't go well. My daughter can do it. I can dab. Okay, one here. It's an article on Digitizer. Utterly joyless. The 10 worst first-party controllers of all time. These aren't in order. They're not ranked in order. But one of them, the first one, is the Amiga CD32, which was freakish. I never owned one. Didn't know anyone that did, but I've played them at expos. It is a slightly weird controller and a slightly odd idea for the console as well, I seem to recall at the time. The Atari Jaguar, of course. Might be time to update that GIF for the next one in the series on the stream there. There we go. Just reminded myself. The Sega Saturn 3D controller. I've never used one of these. Have you used one of these, Random?
Yes. But only, I've never owned one. Played a bit of Knights on it, which was what it came with.
Yeah.
I suppose it's Manx TT. Actually, yeah, I played that with it. Works really well with Manx TT. But it turned out that I didn't like Knights, and never really sort of got the fuss about Knights. So I was never really sort of too bothered about picking one up for myself. It does make a hell of a difference though to Manx TT in the home version. Other than that, I don't know what else it plays, but it's kind of like it is very much, you can see how the Dreamcast controller evolved from it.
Yeah,
it's very sort of similar sort of feeling.
Yeah. Next one on the list is the Philips CDI, which is pretty much a TV remote with 3 or 4 buttons at the top. Then the Sega Master System control stick. I think I've got one of those down here. I'm sure I've got one of those. Picked it up at Expo, out of the bargain bin. Yeah, it's not great. I do like the normal Master System controller with the D-pad, but this, not great. And the Xbox Duke, which was the original kind of fat boy controller for the Xbox, the huge thing, before they shrunk it down a bit later. The Atari 2600 joystick. Now, I remember getting lambasted by Scott when I mentioned this in a top 10 as being a terrible controller. And he got quite angry with me and threw some toys out of the pram. But I just didn't like it. You know, we had Quickshot 2s and the loads of Quick Joys and things at the time when the C64 was out. Obviously, cross-compatible, the controllers. And we just destroyed these things playing Decathlon. You know, whenever we played Decathlon or Daley Thompson's Decathlon or Hypersports or something like that, rather than ruin our lovely Quickshot 2s, we'd get out the old Atari joystick and mash it to pieces and break that instead. The Sony DualShock 2, I completely disagree. I think that won our top 10 polls for top controllers. I love that controller. It's great.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Nintendo 64. I think it depends what game you're playing and how you're holding it. But, yeah, not great. NES gamepad. Apart from giving you sore thumbs through overuse, I don't think that's a bad controller at all. I think it's got a great D-pad on it. Probably uncomfortable because of its squareness or rectangularness, but
oddly not as uncomfortable as you'd think.
Yeah, it's more comfortable than the original NES controller.
Yeah, depends how long you play and how you hold it. I think you get some nice little grooves in your first finger, I think, if I remember rightly, on both hands. But yeah. But as with all those lists, some hits and some misses. Apparently, I sent a video via YouTube. What was this? Oh, this was an episode of the Spectrum Show. It's a monthly show on YouTube. If you're into the Spectrum, it's a great show to subscribe to. I watch them all. And one of our listeners, one of our very favourite listeners and friends at Expo, always buys us a beer at Expo, Jeff Neal, is a contributor to it. You'll hear Jeff in the latter half of the show usually, giving his opinions about all things Spectrum. He's a mad Spectrum nut. So why this episode in particular? Why did I send this? Oh, that's why. Random mentioned Colour Clash earlier, and this has a great segment on Colour Clash, why you got it and how people got around it, various programming techniques to try and avoid it, and they did in many, many games. So that's episode 79 of the Spectrum Show on YouTube, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. But yeah,
ring the bell for notifications.
That's the one. That's the one. And other social media memes, of course. Yeah, so episode 79 for a great article on Colour Clash. And meanwhile, ooh, as we get down to the last third or so of the live news submissions, let's see who can remember what it was, because I don't think I can. Retro Hamer in chat says, UK Mike is the cool uncle. I am. I am indeed.
Kunkel.
Oh, Retro Hamer's there. Here's one I made earlier. Was that the phrase that pays? Or was it
it's close enough.
Was it I should have made earlier?
It is one I should have made earlier.
Oh, he's not going to win. He's too far out for that. He's too far out. He needs to get his shit together. So come on, people. There's still a prize to be won. Can they choose the book, or are you choosing the book?
No, they might as well choose. I don't see. Yeah, I don't have any particular reason to impose a book on anyone.
Yeah, he'll probably hear this in a few seconds with the delay.
While they're talking about, while they're sorting that out, then I'll do this quick one from Peter Gibbs, which he's called 12-Year-Olds with Keyboards, which is some screenshots that were on Kotaku. They've titled "Idiot Kids Will Try Anything to Get Out of an Xbox Live Ban."
I've done that one.
Someone has said, "Hi, Xbox Live enforcement. I would like to know why my account Larson550 was suspended. It says because of my bio, but in my bio I never posted anything that violated the Xbox Live's terms of use or anything. I would like to know more information about my suspension, and if I can get it removed due to wrongful suspending." The reply to them was, "You put," and in all caps, quoted, "anyone who is a Muslim terrorist or an illegal Mexican immigrant, then get the hell out of America. Anyone who doesn't respect or support the US military, then go lay in a hole and die," in your bio, which is offensive and against the terms of use. Your suspension will stand as issued.
That's pretty good writing for a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. I did do that
I mean,
one
like the
earlier
response
random.
letter. Like when I was 12, I was an idiot. I just would be like, "Hey, can I please have my account back? I didn't do nothing wrong," you know.
Yeah,
But I mean, he wrote it pretty eloquently.
he did.
Yeah, there's a lot of them on that page, on that link to go through. There's always been amusing ones in the past.
My favourite GIF is there, one I made myself. There's a site where you can make these GIFs using that John Travolta animation. Someone did it in Atari Age, and I was trying to find it, and I went through pretty much all the thread, well, a couple of threads actually about it, and I couldn't find it. So I then tried Googling it and found a site where you can make your own, so I recreated it. We're still waiting for someone to type the phrase that pays. Here's one I should have made earlier, and nobody has done yet. So I will pick up another news item in the meantime. It's from me, and it is Infinity Ward receives a bomb threat. A wave of bomb threats across the US and Canada. Has this been hitting the news, Sparkle?
You know what? My daughter was an exchange student this past month over in Germany, and she stayed in Ludwigsburg, real close to France, and she's also learning French. So she had asked the family, and I had asked them too, like, "Hey, you think you could run her over to France one weekend, so she could check it out? Because it's only about an hour away from where they're at." So they took her to Strasbourg, and she was there on Sunday at the Christmas market, and then 2 days later it got shot up by a terrorist, some crazy person.
Yeah.
So that kind of hit close to home. But you know, so frequently I mean, I remember there was a rash of bomb threats. A couple different, like, journalists. There was, you know, those fake bombs that were sent to a bunch of celebrities and stuff, and it was some crazy homeless guy living in a van. You know, that sent some non-working devices kind of all over. So it's sad. It's scary kind of times we live in. You know, I think you expect violence in war-torn countries and stuff like that, but, you know, you don't expect to be at a Christmas market or working in an office and then all of a sudden, you know, a damn bomb shows up. I mean, maybe if you're working on some very controversial company, you know, experimenting on babies or something, yeah, I guess you could expect somebody's going to send a bomb there, but fucking video game studio, like, what the hell, you know? So that sucks. A lot of these bomb threats, you know, fortunately are fake. So, you know, I worry that people will get so desensitized to fake bomb threats that they won't take them seriously at some point, you know, until something bad happens. So I don't know. I mean, you guys have dealt with bomb stuff for years over there, right?
Yes, particularly during the Troubles, the 70s and the 80s with Northern Ireland. That was the main thing, the IRA, when they started the mainland campaign. In fact, when they blew up Manchester, they blew up the centre of Manchester, and I had tickets to go to the theatre that night, But luckily, well, luckily is probably the wrong word, but they did it in the afternoon, so they cancelled all the shows and no one could go into the centre. So luckily missed it, but the centre of Manchester looks much better now than it did. Not that I want you to bomb other cities, of course, but yeah, we kind of deal with it, as does everyone, I guess, to some degree. But yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? Why pick on a video game studio? It doesn't really make sense. Unless it's another video game studio. It could be Atari.
Oh no. Did they say if they got to the bottom of it?
It didn't in the article that I sent in, but that's I sent it in a couple of weeks ago. I've not read anything else about it since, so I don't know if they found who did it.
I think in that one they were some of the bomb threats. Somebody was demanding a ransom of some Bitcoin. I don't know if this particular one was one with that, but you know, Infinity Ward sort of known primarily for Call of Duty at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just crazy. Don't blow up our game companies.
Leave them alone. They're in enough trouble.
Blow up a swamp with mosquitoes in it. Like, that's a way better use of a bomb.
That's what Scott used to do when he was a kid. He used to go out into the fields near where he lived with various bomb-making materials, and the trick they used to do was trying to flip over an abandoned car without destroying it. That's how he entertained himself.
Yeah. Yeah, I have some stories I definitely wouldn't share publicly.
Well, he shared it publicly, so I felt it was all right. I could. One here. Go on.
I got one here. From God, I get all these guys. I can't pronounce their names. Terrible. Martin Gamero. I'm gonna go with that. Martin Gamero. Looks like there is a Kickstarter out right now that you can back, and this one is for the 3D Effects Company. It's going to coincide with the upcoming anniversary of 3D Effects' demise. Legacy of the 3D Effects will showcase little-known data and exclusive content. Among them will be performance tests and previously unknown data regarding the 3D Effects' last graphics card to be released.
I think that's the book we did earlier.
Oh, did you?
I think it's the book. Yeah. 3D FX book in 3 editions. Ooh. One here about the PlayStation Classic and its lackluster sales, and we can have a discussion about this while we wait for someone to still win the prize. It's still up for grabs. Come on, what's wrong with you? Don't you want a free book?
Don't tell Chris Wilkins no one wants his book.
Yeah. Bad juju. So the PlayStation Classic only sold 120,000. I think it was in its first week in Japan. So you can compare that to the NES Classic that sold 2.3 million and the SNES Classic. No number for that here, but did incredibly well, similar to the NES. So the PlayStation 1 has just been pretty badly received, and I've seen lots of reviews on it on YouTube, and pretty much down to each and every one of them, they slam it in some way. Mainly American videos slam it because it's using PAL ROMs and the frame rate's too slow.
But it's it's not just that the PAL ROMs are slow. It's just that the frame rate's just a bit shit all round, and so there's been we've had a bit of discussion in our Discord group for the show about it. So bit of a plug for everyone to jump in there. There's sort of up to day-to-day sort of chat going on about stuff going on, and there's been pretty quick work done in hacking it, busting it wide open.
There's like almost nothing you have to do other than like name a flash drive, format it, name it Sony in all caps, and stick that fucker in, and like you're pretty much up and running.
Yeah, I think the problem is so far still is that despite the fact that the hardware is better in the PlayStation Classic, because it's not quite RetroArch isn't quite up and running on it yet in a sort of as such a good way as it is on like the SNES Classic. The SNES Classic, ironically, will run PlayStation games better than the PlayStation Classic runs them.
Yeah.
At the moment. So there's a few things with the PlayStation Classic with modding it. So like, you at the moment you're using one of the USB ports for the flash drives, and there's also an issue with how much current the USB ports put out. So not all flash drives work, but it does mean that you then have to sort of go for a workaround to get 2-player controllers back up and running on it. But people have been finding, that there's various USB PS2 adapters that people have released over years and years for the PC, which work on it. So you can then at least use a DualShock, proper DualShock controller with it and get your analog control and rumble back. So I think it's developing into an interesting machine. And what's been interesting this week, I think it was this week it started, but there's already been a number of price drops. I think it first started in the US, but then the UK have started dropping it now as well. So it's about 30 quid. I think it went down from 99.99 to 69.99 in the UK. So maybe the sort of the early negative press and the lackluster sales might actually turn out to be a bit of a blessing if it does end up a fair bit cheaper, and then people blow it open a bit to improve performance, and tweak the emulators that are on it. Could turn out to be an all right system in the end.
But, I mean, and I think we discussed this initially when they released the games list, and they were kind of dodgy about putting out that list till the last minute. And it's like, we all kind of identified like, oh my gosh, doesn't have this, doesn't have that. Like, how does it not have Symphony of Night? How doesn't it have, this game on it? So there was just some glaring omissions of great games, and some of the games on here are just shit. Like, I couldn't imagine anyone getting excited to play Battle of Toshinden Arena. I mean, it's just kind of a bad game. So, these things kind of live and die with the mass market as far as what comes on the console. I mean, the modding community is one thing, but these mass market numbers, it's just, they didn't put the right collection of games on it, is my opinion.
No, and somebody found, was it a menu, I think, that had the names of pretty much all the PlayStation games, probably from testing, where they were launching different ones, and it came down to licensing, I guess, maybe, which ones they actually included. But they left, this file with all the menu system on it for all the games, and didn't even bother taking them out when they took the games off it. Because people were thinking the games were actually still on there, but they weren't.
No, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, the storage, the actual physical storage on it isn't big enough. But then, that's not been a problem for the community because, quite early on they had stuff booting from flash drives and or hard drives, which is the way to go.
Yeah,
it seems.
So somebody eventually typed in the phrase that pays random. So that was Retro Hamer. Here's one I should have made earlier, or was it could? I said he was close enough. So I guess he gets to pick a book. So
yep.
Hold them up, and in 15 seconds he'll be able to pick one.
Christ, I put them on the floor, which is a bad idea because it's quite an effort to pick them back up again. Right, where's my camera so I can see what I'm doing? Oh, over it.
Man your head on the microphone.
Let's go sideways, shall we? There we go. They're upside down, so that's even better. Turn them around. Whoop. Smash them into the mic again. So yeah, if you pick one of those and drop us an email, I suppose you might as well drop it, send it straight to randomdave@retrogamingroundup.com. I shall get it in the post.
And he says, I'll have the fecking egg game one.
The fecking egg game. Excellent.
Yeah.
Wise choice. I know America loves a bit of Dizzy the Egg.
No. No, we didn't. No one liked it.
And he's got a round of applause there in the little GIF window. Well done. Okay.
Cool.
Back to some news items, and Capcom were in the news because they put in-game ads in their Street Fighter game. What platform was it on? Somebody who plays modern games can probably tell me.
PlayStation 4 and PC. It'll be.
Have you got the game? Have you played it? Have you seen the ads?
I've not. I never really got back into modern fighting games particularly, which is a shame. I did really enjoy them. I just don't have sort of the time to put into them to enjoy them enough, or have enough friends around often enough to play them with me. Which is always the most fun, is playing them, side by side with mates.
Yeah.
So
people
I saw a lot of chat about it on Twitter, but never actually. Can't remember when it happened, but I wasn't at the time. I wasn't sort of prepared to go in and look at any of the videos or anything. But
Yeah.
it sounds like a bit of a shit show of how they've implemented it.
I think what also annoyed people is that it was a full price game. It wasn't ad funded. It wasn't a cut price game that was ad supported. It was a full price title they paid for, and they're getting ads in it. I remember when Netflix announced they may put ads in some of their shows or between episodes, and people are like, "No, we're paying for this service." If Netflix use ads, I'm out of there.
It's coming because Netflix and Hulu announced, and I think Netflix so they're gonna start serving up advertisements whenever you pause something. So if you pause and you got to go take a tinkle or something, an ad will start playing. So even if you pay for the full service, when you pause. So I think this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg on this stuff. It's definitely going to happen because, so many people are getting squeezed out, and, these companies really rely on advertising to kind of keep their platforms going, and the game sales, the prices keep increasing. So they need to come up with some other way of monetizing it. And I think that you're going to see this moving forward as a thing with modern games, loading screens, anytime you pause it, next thing, as long as you're logged into a network, you're going to see a commercial for a tampon or something.
Yeah. One here that ties in with our top 10 this month. Superhero games, of course. You will have heard it by now if you're listening to the podcast back. So Marvel's Spider-Man is the fastest selling superhero game in US history. Too modern to be in our list, of course. I didn't click on it to read it because it says click here to read it, and it's a Twitter link. Why not just put the story there?
This just confirms that I was right and Scott is wrong, that Spider-Man is not a goofy character, and he's beloved across the planet because people are buying the shit out of this game, and especially in America.
Yeah, I think Scott was in the minority on that one. Spider-Man is probably one of the most well-known and most loved superheroes.
Yeah, he's well-known and well-loved and stuff, but I haven't heard, obviously, what his thoughts on why Spider-Man is a bit goofy and a bit of a, but he is a bit of a cheeseball goof, and yeah, I don't think I particularly like him that much as a character.
I think one of his problems was the name Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, what's different? What's different to that to then Batman, who is probably one of my favorite characters?
Well, because to basically he sums it up that Spider-Man's goofy because he gets bit by a spider and then has superpowers, and it's just kind of dumb, where Batman is more of a smart guy with gadgets and stuff like that.
Yeah, I suppose maybe.
Mm.
Didn't they change the Spider-Man radioactive spider bite thing? Didn't that get changed in one of the reboots into some other thing? Or is it that it became the radioactive spider? Yeah, I can't remember. There was something weird that went on there, wasn't there, with the backstory?
I do know that the Aquaman is coming out in America this weekend, and I am not going to see that.
I did hear it was coming out, and I wouldn't go and pay money to see it either.
They launched it first in Asia, which was really smart because a lot of people that eat fish that have sort of affinity for fish and fishing culture and stuff. So it did quite well. And I think that they were trying to sell that over here, that it's already like an amazing movie because it did so well in Asia. I don't know how it's going to do here, but
yeah, I saw people talking it up.
I've seen episode 1 with the Gungan underwater communities, and I've seen The Little Mermaid, and I think underwater stuff like that, that's underwater kingdoms, it's a great idea, great concept. Nothing wrong with Star Wars episode 1, is there?
No.
No.
Although I don't hate Jar Jar Binks the way most people do. I don't get why it makes people angry.
I like Boss Nass. I think Jar Jar Binks was just a bit, C-3PO was always there for a bit of comic relief and campy fun, and I think Jar Jar Binks was just a step too far in the madcap, wacky, will make this appeal to 7-year-olds. I think that upset people. I think that was why.
I think the Star Wars thing that annoyed me most was in not the Han Solo one, the one before that. I can't remember what it was called.
Rogue One.
Rogue One, maybe, where they sat around the campfire cooking those little creatures, and they're all cute and cuddly and Disneyfied. And then I remembered, oh yeah, Disney made this.
Oh no, that was Last Jedi, wasn't it?
Last Jedi, yeah. That was a step too far. No, Disney, no.
Well, I mean, I think the thing with Jar Jar Binks was that, because you had the Ewoks, that were silly little like slapstick fuzzballs and stuff. Although they were kind of badass in setting up big fucking swinging log thick traps to kill big walkers and stuff. But I think the problem is that all the Star Wars fans had grown up and were man children, but didn't like the realization that some of these parts of these films are for actual children, and I think that upset them a bit.
Yeah, but the Ewoks, you kind of looked at them as like they were sort of subhuman intelligence. Like they had some stick huts and shit like that, and they thought 3CPO was a god, and they clearly weren't very advanced, so you could kind of give them a pass. Where these Gungans had some incredible underwater empire and like advanced technology, and all of them talked like fucking idiots, and you're just like, how the fuck did these idiots put all this shit together? Just not buying it,
Yeah. One here, decent informative article on gamesindustrybiz.biz, and it's the year 2018 in numbers, game related. So there are a few different pie charts and tables and things with lots of info on it. Oops, I've pasted the wrong thing again. That's the URL for the GIF. And so mobile games in 2018 made 63.2 billion. Tablet games 13.2 billion. Smartphone games 50 billion. PC 33 billion. Browser games 4.3 billion. Boxed and downloaded PC games 29.2 billion, and console games 38. So smartphone and mobile, not sure the difference, by far outselling what you would think of as the more traditional platforms.
I wonder how much. So I wonder how much of that is, how they're counting revenue from Fortnite on mobile and things like that.
Well, there's a table here, the most covered games, and number one is obviously Fortnite, closely followed by PUBG, of course. Then you've got Overwatch, Red Dead Redemption 2, Grand Theft Horse, then God of War, Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, Destiny 2, Monster Hunter World, Fallout 76, Battlefield 5, Far Cry 5, Pokemon Go, Dark Souls, Remaster on Switch, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And there are lots of other lists and tables there for you to peruse at your leisure.
I was kind of surprised of the percentages just over the overall numbers. How much people are still buying PC games. I mean, I was kind of surprised that it was nearly neck and neck with consoles.
I I think it's made a bit of a resurgence in the last year. I think it maybe did lag behind consoles a lot, but I think it's taken a swing the other way. You know, maybe that includes sites like GOG, Humble Bundle, where you can pick up a few PC deals. Steam, of course, is massive
Steam,
these days. Yeah, so I think
I
it has
wonder
made.
what happens as well with all of Microsoft's, pretty much all of their first-party content is now Windows and Xbox One together, and you buy one license and you get it in both places. So I wonder how that's counted, whether that's had any effect on it. Because it's got to a point where it's like, well, there's not much point me buying an Xbox One, because if I really want to play the Microsoft exclusive stuff, I can play it on the PC.
Fallout not doing so well.
No,
it's interesting because you could see on here how it was the fourth most viewed thing on YouTube. The fifth most tweeted about game. The coverage was very high on the list, but as far as sales, not doing so good. And in fact, they discounted it pretty heavily over Black Friday. I think they reduced it down to like $35 or something like that. So
I wonder if they knocked off the figures, the ones that got returned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just not good.
No. So from 2018 to 2019, which we'll be doing ourselves soon, I can't read through this one because it's a video. Which games will be big in 2019? You will have to watch it by clicking the link in the show notes, of course. And I won't be playing any of them anyway, I don't think. So you can watch that one also at your leisure. So there's one I want to finish with there, which is the earthquake bed. But before we do that, we got one here from Spinal. Would you look at that? Carlos Martinet received a Guinness World Record for doing the Super Mario voice in 100 games. I've been doing my own voice all day, every day, my whole life, and I haven't received nothing. It goes to show, doesn't it? Anyway, here's a link. So, yes, of course he has. He's done Super Mario. And I guess he got a Guinness World Record. Maybe most voiceovers, I'm guessing. I know Tommy Tallarico has one for the most in-game music, I think, wasn't it? Most games he's worked on, something like that.
That wouldn't surprise me. It sounds legit.
It does. And I noticed this week as well, the Video Games Live albums that they put out. They kickstarted them. I've backed about 3 or 4 of them now. The latest one, I think it's number 6, got into number 5 in the Billboard charts. I didn't expect it to be as mainstream as that, and that kind of surprised me. So,
maybe it's just that no one's buying music anymore.
Possibly, but yeah, it's certainly in album form. Maybe they buy singles on iTunes. I don't know, but some good work by Tommy there, I guess.
Yeah.
Well done, Tommy Tallarico.
You do get you do end up more and more these days with Classic FM, Radio 4, I think Radio 2 as well. Well, like every now and again, they'll just end up, just randomly playing a load of video game soundtracks, which is quite odd.
Yeah.
When it happens, obviously, they'll do sort of special. Here's an actual special sort of hour of something, especially on Classic FM. They've done sort of, I think, like Halo specials and things. But yeah, just every now and again you'll just get odd ones just randomly crop up in the BBC playlists, which is pretty weird, but good, I suppose.
Yeah. So final one here, I think it is from Us Versus Them. And a little light-hearted one to finish. Now let's see if I can stream this and if we should play audio. Let's have a look. You can watch this in your live stream window. It is an earthquake-proof bed. Sleep in safety. A survival prepper's dream. No, we can't have sound, so you can only watch it. But the video's enough. Maybe you can hear that. I don't know. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I could just about hear it, yeah.
I'll leave it going then. Wait till you see this thing. We could maybe send it full screen, actually. Let's see what happens.
Can't beat streaming YouTube videos onto YouTube streaming videos.
Oh, there we go. It's full screen. Have you seen the thing close up? I thought it was a spoof product. This is mental. Imagine if the sensor breaks.
It's just a big box that when, like, the lid's just lightly propped open so that when everything starts wobbling, it's just going to shut itself.
Yeah,
and
it slams. There's loads of different ways that they fold up.
You could do the similar thing by just buying a bunk bed and only sleeping in the bottom of it, couldn't you?
Yeah, but you'd have to store loads of water and first aid kits under it as well. They've got lots of different designs.
Oh, that's great.
Of course, the sound will be out of sync with the video, won't it? Or will it? Maybe not.
I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm getting the sound through the Skype chat, which is in sync. Well, I don't know whether it's in time or not because it's a man doing a voiceover.
Yeah.
And some stuff happening.
But it is, as he says, a survival prepper's dream. I wouldn't like to have my arm sticking out of the bed when the lid slams. Or if you're about 8 foot tall and your head sticks out the top. Yeah, they come with, so you can spec it yourself. You obviously pick which design you want and how it closes. And you can pick which sensors it has in. Like, you can get them with radio beacons that send out a signal so that rescue services can find you. I'm under here in this fucking big metal case.
In the bottom of a tower block.
Yeah.
It's taken me 3 months to find you.
So there you go. That was from Us Versus Them. You can watch the full thing in your own time. So there we go. Let's turn the sound off. Go away. Okay. Back to the stream. So, I think, are we done? Are we out of news?
I think so.
It was a light month.
Yeah, we only had about 30 this month. A couple of duplicates, which we don't mind, of course. Send them all in. So, yeah, hit us up in January with all your news. Send it to news@retrogamingroundup.com, of course. Keep listening to the show. Have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year.
Start sending in your audio clips of your favourite segments and your wishes for the future and looking back on the past of the 10 years of Retro Gaming Roundup.
Yeah, get your audio clips in. Send me a link to it if it's in Dropbox or something. Email it to me if it's not very big and doesn't clog up my email server. And we'll stick some in the anniversary show in February. So you've got a couple of months to get them sent in. So make sure you do it. And, of course, you can win a prize for doing so. You'll be entered in to win one of Random Dave's books. Not one of his dirty ones. He keeps those. So,
well, they're stuck in place.
Yeah.
Gross.
Gross. Ew. So, yes, we shall see you again next month. Have a happy holidays and all that good stuff. Sparkle's got 123 bottles of bourbon to get through between now and January. So, we'll catch you later. Good night, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Bye.